Good evening. Today we are learning biblical Hebrew according to the book, the First Hebrew Primer. We are in chapter 7, the perfect tense. We are on page 50 and we start with oral review. Ha'ach halach el haaretz. The brother went to the land. Ha'achim halchu el ha'ir. The brothers went to the city. Hem avru el ha'ir. They passed to the city. Hana'arot avru el haaretz. The young ladies passed to the land. Number 2. Ish shalach behema leMoav. A man sent an animal to Moav. Anashim shalchu behemot leMoav. Men sent animals to Moav. Isha shalcha eved leMoav. A woman sent a slave to Moav. Nashim shalchu avadim leMoav. Women sent slaves to Moav. Banot mimitzrayim avru lirushalayim. Daughters from Egypt passed to Jerusalem. Banim mimitzrayim avru lirushalayim. Sons from Egypt passed to Jerusalem. Banim ubanot amdu b'mitzrayim. Sons and daughters stood in Egypt. Hema avru lemitzrayim vehem amdu b'mitzrayim. They passed to Egypt and they stood in Egypt. Number 4. Baderech el heharim amad nar. On the way to the mountains stood a young man. Baderech el heharim amdu nar v'nara. On the way to the mountains stood a young man and a young woman. Hema amdu v'hema sham'u behemot beharim. They stood and they heard animals in the mountains. Baderech el ha'ir hem zachru yamim beharim. On the way to the city, they remembered days on the mountains. Number 5. Hamelech malach b'Yerushalayim. A king ruled in Jerusalem. Hu malach ba'ir v'ha'achim malchu beharim. He ruled in the city and the brothers ruled on mountains. Hamelech shamar anashim v'ha'achim shamru behemot. The king guarded men and the brothers guarded animals. Hem shalochu behemot la'ir v'hu shalach anashim leharim. They sent animals to the city and he sent men to mountains. Now on page 51 we actually start chapter 7, perfect tense. Now perfect tense, we said, means in simple English past tense. First we have new vocabulary words. Starting from the right column, achal aleph chaf lamed is a verb that means eat. Achal means he ate. Amar aleph mem resh is a root of a verb, say. Amar means he said. Anachnu, we, and it can be used both by men and women. Ani or anochi, I. It can be used by men or women. Singular, I, ani, or anochi, can use either. Anachnu is plural, we. At, you, feminine, singular. When you talk to a girl, one girl, you say at, you. When you talk to a boy, you use ata, singular, plural, singular, masculine, you, ata. Atem is plural, you, masculine. At Aten, we're on page 51, vocabulary words, the column on the left. Aten, you, plural, feminine. Aten. Now another verb, yud shin vet, yashav, is a root of sit, settle, or reside. Remember, three meanings, because depending on the context it can mean one of these three: either to sit on a chair, settle in a location, or reside in a location. Yashav, he sat or he settled. Lo is no or not. Lechem simply means bread, but generally it refers to all food. Often Torah says lechem, but the meaning is food, not only bread. Lifnei, before, in time, or in front of, in space. And another verb, lamed kuf het, lakach. That's the root of the word take. Lakach means he took. And the last word, al, has four different meanings. Al can mean upon, about, speaking about someone, on, and over. Again, depending on the context, you may use one of these four translations. Now we have subject pronouns, and all the pronouns are listed in the following charts. First, the pronouns that we're already familiar with. Who is he is she, hem or hemma is they masculine, and henna is they feminine. And now we are learning new pronouns, and together, putting them together, we have subject pronoun chart. Singular on the right side, plural on the left side, and they're divided by first line is first person, next two lines are second person, and the next two lines are third person. First person is speaking about myself or us, second person speaking to you, and third person is speaking to him, her, or them. Okay, now ani or anochi is I, both feminine and masculine. Ata, or let's go to first person, anachnu, we, plural, both feminine and masculine. So ani and anachnu when we're speaking in first person about ourselves or about myself. Ani, anochi, or anachnu. Now second person on the right side, ata, you, masculine, singular. Unlike English, where the word you can mean all four, in Hebrew there are four separate words. Ata is for you for masculine singular, at is you for feminine singular, atem is you for masculine plural, and aten is you for feminine plural. It may sound confusing, but once you practice, it will become second nature. When you're speaking to a boy, you say ata. When you're speaking to a girl, you say at. When you're speaking to boys, you say atem. When you're speaking to girls, you say aten. And when you're speaking to a mixture of boys and girls, you use the masculine plural pronoun atem as well. And now third person on the right side, who means he, hem or hemma is they masculine. So who, when you're talking about one boy, you say he in English, and you say who in Hebrew. And when you're speaking about a few boys, you say hem, they masculine, or hemma. Now for girls, if you're speaking about one girl, she, that in Hebrew is he. That girl, you say he. And when you're speaking about a few girls together, they, you say henna. Okay, now we turn to page 52. We are actually learning past tense of verbs right now. Page 52 on top, perfect tense of the Pa'al pattern. Different verb patterns have different names. The most simple one is Pa'al, means he did something, as opposed to something was done to him. So on page 52 we have an example of a verb, in this case shamar, in past tense, he guarded. So the most simple structure of a Hebrew verb is just the root, and the root of a verb is third person singular masculine. He did something. So in this case, shamar means he guarded, and you can say hu shamar for he guarded, or you don't have to use the pronoun. If you say shamar, it already means he guarded. So sometimes in the Torah you will have a pronoun, sometimes not, and you don't need to have a pronoun. Now for feminine, she guarded, you add a hey and change the sound to ah. Shamra, he shamra, she guarded. And when you speak about plural, that is easy, because both for masculine and feminine, past tense verb is the same. Shamru, whether you're talking about them, they masculine, or they feminine, shamru. Hem shamru or henna shamru, they guarded. The forms you have learned belong to a verb pattern called the Pa'al pattern. This is one of the 7 Hebrew patterns. The perfect tense forms in the Pa'al pattern are made by adding signal letters to the end of a verb root. Again, if you're speaking about he did something, then you don't add anything, it's just the pure root form, shamar. But everything else you have to add an ending. For she guarded, you add a hey and ah sound, and they, you add u sound at the end. And we'll see for all the pronouns below. The signal letters are the same in all 7 patterns of the perfect tense. Okay, the chart below shows all the perfect tense forms of the verb shamar, of the example word, in the Pa'al pattern. In the forms below, the signal letters are outlined and the root letters are blank. So this chart is very useful, and so it's recommended to make a copy of it and keep all the important charts together in front of you, so that when you're doing exercises in this book and you forget, oh, how do I say that in the past tense, or how do I say that in the future tense, or in the present tense, you will easily refer to the chart, and you're not going to have to list browse the whole book to find the chart. So this is a useful chart. You should make a picture of it or a copy and keep it on the side. So for example, I guarded is shamarti. So you notice that there is a similarity between the pronoun ending and the verb ending. So ani ends with e, and therefore the verb I guarded will be shamarti, also ending with e. Ani shamarti. Next word, you is ata, it ends with a, so shamarta, ata shamarta. You for feminine, at, shamart, both end with t, at shamart. Who, which is he, is the simple form shamar without any additions. Now for she, which is he, shamra. We guarded, shamarnu, because the pronoun is anachnu, ending with nu, so shamarnu, easy to remember. You, plural, masculine, atem, so ending with tem, so the verb becomes shemartem. And notice that the vowels also change. In plural, you, instead of shamar, it's shemar. You don't say shamartem, you say shemartem. And for girls, plural, you say shemarten. And for they guarded, shamru. Whether it's feminine or masculine, they, shamru. Whenever we show you a new pattern, we will ask you to memorize it. This means that you need to read it, write it, and say it over and over until it is familiar to you as the multiplication tables or as the ABCs. Now, we turn to page 53, and we actually have whatever we practice now in written form together with the pronouns. Ani shamarti, anochi shamarti, I guarded. Ata shamarta, you guarded, masculine. At shamart, you guarded, feminine. Hu shamar, he guarded. He shamra, she guarded. Anachnu shamarnu, we guarded. Atem shemartem, you guarded, plural, masculine. Aten shemarten, you guarded, plural, feminine. Hem hema shamru, they guarded, masculine. Henna shamru, they guarded, feminine. Any verb root that we have introduced so far can fit into the above pattern. In roots that include the 5 guttural letters, there may be some vowel changes that we have to pay attention to. You don't have to memorize them, because if necessary you can refer to the verb spelling chart on page 371. And each verb that is introduced in this book will be listed there in all of its forms. And as we mentioned before, you don't need to use a pronoun together with a verb in the past tense, because the ending of the verb will already tell you who is speaking. Amad ti, I stood, so the ti already means I. Zacharti already means I remembered. Halachti, I went. So one word in Hebrew is 2 words in English. Amarti, I said. Lakachti, I took. Malachti, I ruled. Subject pronouns will sometimes be used with perfect tense verbs for convenience in this text. So again, sometimes in the Torah and in this text book, pronouns are used, but it's more for emphasis. Now, how do you make a negative sentence in Hebrew? That's the next topic. And page 53, sentences are usually made negative in Hebrew by using lo, which means not. Here are some examples of lo used in sentences. For example, Avraham halach el ha'ir. Abraham went to the city. If you want to say he didn't, then you say Avraham lo halach el ha'ir. You add lo in front of the verb halach. Avraham lo halach el ha'ir. Avraham did not go to the city. Now, next example. Amadnu baderech. We stood on the road. And how do you say we didn't stand on the road? Lo amadnu baderech. You don't have to say we. Just the word amadnu already means we stood. Lo amadnu means we didn't stand baderech, on the road. Now we turn to page 54. And we have exercises, very important exercises to practice past tense. Write the correct perfect tense verb forms using the verbs zachar and malach. So in exercise 1 on page 54, we have to use 2 verbs for each number. So for example, number so it gives you example: ani, I, zacharti, or malachti, I remembered or I ruled. Number 1 in exercise 1, ata. How do you use the word malach or zachar, rule or remember, for ata? You. Ata zacharta, ata malachta. And again, on your own time, you should actually write these down, read them, translate them. Number 2 in exercise 1, at, you feminine, at zachart, at malacht. 3, who, he. And remember that who is the most simple one, no additions. Who zachar, who malach. He, she. He zachra, he malcha. Number 5, anachnu, we. Anachnu zacharnu, anachnu malachnu. We remembered, we ruled. Number 6, atem, you. Masculine plural. Atem, and notice the vowels change. Atem zechartem, atem melachtem. Number 7, aten, feminine plural. Aten zecharten, aten melachten. Atem and aten are the 2 forms that change vowels. Now 8, hema, they, masculine. Hema malchu, hema zachru. And for number 9 is the same thing, for even though it's feminine, but the form is the same. Henna, they, feminine. Henna malchu, henna zachru. Now exercise 2. Write all the perfect tense forms for the verbs yashav and lakach, and you can include the appropriate subject pronouns. Read each form aloud and translate. This should be done by everyone in writing. I'm going to quickly say for the word yud shin vet, following the chart on page 52, yashav ti, yashavta, yashavt, yashav, yashva, yashavnu, yeshavtem, yeshavten, yashvu, yashvu. So everyone, please do this exercise in writing, read it and translate it. Now for the word lakach, following chart on page 52, lakach means took. Lakachti, I took. Lakachta, you took. Lakacht, you took, feminine. Lakach, he took. Lakha, she took. Lakachnu, we took. Lekachtem, you, masculine plural, took. Lekachten, you, feminine plural, took. Lakhu, they took. Lakhu, they took, feminine. Okay, now exercise 3. Read these perfect tense verb forms aloud and translate. And we are going to go down the column, first column, second column, to make it more difficult. Halachti, I walked. Malachta, you ruled. Zachart, you, feminine, singular, remembered. Shalach, he sent. Amda, she stood. Shamanu, we heard or we listened. Melachtem, you, plural, masculine, ruled. Yeshavten, you, feminine, plural, sat or settled. Halchu, they went. Now column number 2. Zacharti, I remembered. Amadta, you stood. Yashavta, you sat. Or actually it's yashavt, you sat, feminine. Lakach, he took. Shalha, she sent. Achalnu, we ate. Shematem, you heard, masculine, plural. Shelachten, you sent, feminine, plural. Shamru, they guarded. Now column 3. Avarti, I passed. Shamarta, you guarded, masculine. Malacht, you feminine, ruled. Amar, he said. Amra, she said. Shalachnu, we sent. Halachten, you walked, plural, masculine. Achalten, you ate, feminine, plural. Avru, they passed. Column 4. Yashavti, I sat. Shalachta, you masculine, sent. Amart, you feminine, said. Avar, he passed. Avra, she passed. Shamarnu, we guarded. Shelachtem, you plural, masculine, sent. Zecharten, you plural, feminine, remembered. Sham'u, they listened. Number 5. Lakachti, again I'm going columns, the 5th word in each line. Lakachti, I took. Shamata, you heard. Amadet, you feminine, stood. Halach, he went. Zachra, she remembered. Lakachnu, we took. Amartem, you said, masculine, plural. Halachten, you walked, feminine, plural. Shalhu, they sent. The 6th word in every line. Achalti, I ate. Lakachta, you masculine, took. Achalt, you feminine, ate. Achal, he ate. Shamra, she guarded. Yashavnu, we sat. Lekachtem, you masculine, plural, took. Shemarten, you feminine, plural, guarded. Amdu, they stood. Number 7, 7th word in each line in exercise 3 on page 54. Amarti, I said. Amarta, you said, masculine. Shama'at, you feminine, singular, heard. Yashav, he sat. Lakha, she took. Amarnu, we said. Zechartem, you plural, masculine, remembered. Lekachten, you plural, feminine, took. Achlu, they ate. And the last word on each line, 8th word. Shamati, I heard. Yashavta, you sat. Shamart, you guarded, feminine, singular. Shama, he heard. Achla, she ate. Avarnu, we passed. Amadtem, you masculine, plural, stood. Shematen, you masculine, you feminine, plural, heard. Malchu, they ruled. And exercise 4, write the appropriate Hebrew subject pronoun. Example: Ani ve'ata, I and you make we. Anachnu. Number 1, ata ve'ata, you and you. You say to two men, you and you. Together, you plural. Atem. Plural, masculine, you. David v'Avraham. David and Avraham, they. Masculine, they means hem or hema. Sarah. Sarah is she. That is he. At ve'at. When you speak to two girls, you a girl, you a girl, you say you plural feminine. Aten. Aten. Number 5. Hamelech. The king is he. And that is who. Mitzrayim v'Yerushalayim. Two names of places. Mitzrayim, Egypt. v'Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. We know that names of places are feminine. So they, feminine. Henna. Henna. Ata ve'at. You a boy and you a girl. Together, you plural. And we use the masculine form. Ata ve'at, atem. Number 8. Ha'ir, the city. In English you would maybe say it, but in Hebrew it is she. It's feminine. I'm sorry. The name of a city is feminine, but the word, the city, is masculine. So it would be who, which means he. Ha'ir, who. Hanashim ve'ha'ish, many women and one man. As long as there's one man in the group, we use masculine pronoun. Hanashim ve'ha'ish. We will use they masculine and you plural masculine, but not feminine. Okay. The first line, and we're going to go in the exception. Instead of lakacht, the proper word is lakahat. Lakahat means she. I'm sorry. You, feminine, singular, took. Again, instead of lakacht, it's lakahat. Avar, he passed. Second word in each line. Sham'u, they heard. Achla, she ate. Halachtem, you plural masculine, went. Amadnu, we stood. Lakachnu, we took. Avart, you feminine singular, passed. Shama, he heard. Achaltem, you plural masculine, ate. Halachti, I walked. Amad, he stood. Lakha, she took. Avartem, you plural masculine, passed. Shamati, this is the fourth word in each line. I heard. Shamati. Achalnu, we ate. Halachta, you masculine singular, walked. Amdu, they stood. Lekachtem, you plural masculine, took. Avra, she passed. Shama, next word on each line, the fifth word. Shamanu, we heard. Achal, he ate. Halcha, she walked. Amadta, you masculine singular, stood. Lakhu, they took. Avarti, I passed. Next word in each line. Shematem, you plural, masculine, heard. Achalt, you, feminine, singular, ate. Halachnu, we walked. Amda, she stood. Lakachta, you, masculine, singular, took. Avarta, you passed. Now, the word next to the last in each line, shama'at, you, feminine, singular, heard. Achlu, they ate. Halacht, you, feminine, singular, walked. Amadet, you, feminine, singular, stood. Lakach, he took. Avarnu, we passed. And the last word in each line, sham'a, she heard. Achalta, you, singular, masculine, ate. Halach, he walked. Amadti, I stood. Lakachti, I took. Avru, they passed. This finishes this class. In the next class, we finish all the exercises in chapter 7 that we actually did already last week. And next week we will go, Bezat Hashem, to chapter 8, lesson 8 on page 59. Thank you for listening. Have a great night. All the best.